I froze in shock as my husband suddenly stormed into the hospital room, shouting, "Sell your jewelry and give me $200,000, or I'll divorce you." When I firmly refused, his face twisted with rage. "How dare you say no to me?" he yelled, his voice booming. Without warning, he grabbed the blood pressure monitor and slammed it onto my head with full force. Pain shot through me as I felt dizzy, but before I could even recover from the blow, what he did next was even more shocking. "Hello, my name is Celia Parker, and I am 35 years old. I work as an online entrepreneur, running a small but thriving business from home. My work allows me to be financially independent while also spending quality time with my son, Liam, who is 7 years old. Growing up, I always dreamed of creating something meaningful, something that gave me both freedom and stability. My journey hasn't been easy, but my determination and hard work have brought me here today. I love my job, not only because it provides for my family, but because it gives me the satisfaction of building a secure future for my little boy. Looking back, I never imagined my life would take so many unexpected turns. Meeting Ryan, falling in love, and starting a family with him felt like the beginning of a beautiful chapter. But life, as I would soon learn, had its own plans. I still remember the first time I met Ryan Carter. It was at a friend's birthday party on a warm summer evening. I wasn't planning to attend. I had a busy work schedule, but my friend insisted I take a break and join the celebration. Little did I know that decision would change my life. Ryan stood out in the crowd. He was charismatic, confident, and had this warm smile that instantly made people feel at ease. When our eyes met across the room, he walked straight toward me, introduced himself, and started a conversation. He asked about my work, listened intently, and made me laugh with his witty humor. It felt natural, almost as if we had known each other for years. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and I started seeing each other regularly. Our dates were simple yet meaningful. Walks in the park, long conversations over coffee, and late-night calls that made my heart skip a beat. He seemed genuinely interested in my dreams and ambitions, always encouraging me to aim higher. However, there was one thing I hadn't anticipated: his family. As my relationship with Ryan grew deeper, he introduced me to his family. His mother, Margaret Carter, and his sister, Diana Carter, were not exactly the warm and welcoming types. From the very first meeting, I could sense their disapproval. Margaret, a stern woman in her 60s, barely smiled during our introduction, while Diana, recently divorced, seemed cold and distant. I tried my best to make a good impression. I brought homemade cookies, asked about their interests, and showed genuine interest in their lives. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. Margaret made subtle comments about my work, implying it wasn't real or stable compared to a traditional job. Diana, on the other hand, seemed intent on finding flaws in everything I did. One evening, while Ryan and I were having dinner with his family, Margaret openly expressed her doubts about our relationship. "Ryan, are you sure this is the right decision? Marriage is a serious commitment, and I'm not sure Celia understands what it takes." Her words stung, but I stayed quiet, not wanting to cause a scene. Ryan, however, stood up for me. "Mom, I love Celia, and I'm marrying her. That's final." It wasn't easy, but over time, Ryan managed to convince his family to accept our relationship. Margaret and Diana reluctantly agreed to attend the wedding, though their smiles never reached their eyes. Our wedding day was a mix of emotions. Despite the tension with his family, it was one of the happiest days of my life. As I walked down the aisle and saw Ryan waiting for me, I believed we could overcome any obstacle together. After our wedding, Ryan and I settled into married life. At first, everything seemed perfect. Ryan was supportive, affectionate, and excited about our future together. We moved into a cozy house in the suburbs, and for a while, I felt like I was living the life I had always dreamed of. A year into our marriage, we welcomed our son, Liam. Holding him for the first time was the most beautiful moment of my life. He became my world, my reason to work harder and dream bigger. I continued my online business, balancing motherhood and work with determination. Every penny I earned was carefully budgeted, and I started saving for Liam's future. Over the years, I managed to save $150,000, a safety net for his education and opportunities one wanted him to have. While I focused on my business and raising Liam, Ryan's behavior slowly began to change. He started spending more time with his mother and sister, Margaret and Diana, who continued to be critical of me. They would visit frequently, often making passive-aggressive comments about how I wasn't doing enough as a wife or mother. Ryan, who once defended me, started echoing their sentiments. "Maybe you should spend less time working and more time focusing on the house," he'd say, his tone cold. It hurt, but I brushed it off, thinking it was just a phase. But as the years passed, things only got worse. As time went on, Margaret and Diana's interference in our lives became more frequent and toxic. They seemed to thrive on creating conflict, often whispering doubts into Ryan's ear about me and my intentions. "She's too focused on her work," Margaret would say. "How can she truly care about her family if she's always thinking about her business?" Diana would add her own venom to the mix. "Ryan, you deserve someone who prioritizes you and Liam, not her savings or his career. What good is all that money if it's not helping the families?" I noticed the change in Ryan. The man who once supported my ambitions now began to criticize them. He became distant, short-tempered, and dismissive. Small arguments about household chores or finances escalated into heated disputes. His words were no longer encouraging, they were sharp and condescending. "You're always working, Celia," he snapped one evening. "What's the point of saving all this money if it's just sitting there? Why can't you use it for something meaningful?" I tried to explain that I was saving for Liam's future, for his education, his security. But Ryan wouldn't hear it. Instead, his frustration grew, fueled by the constant influence of his mother and sister. One day, as I was reviewing my bank statements, I noticed something alarming. My savings account, which had $150,000 saved for Liam, showed a significantly lower balance. My heart sank as I scrolled through the transactions, realizing that Ryan had withdrawn the entire amount. I felt a wave of panic and anger as the truth dawned on me. He had stolen the money. When I confronted him, his reaction was cold and unapologetic. "I invested it," he said bluntly. "You were just hoarding it, Celia. I used it for something worthwhile." "Invested it?" I exclaimed, my voice trembling. "In what?" "In a cryptocurrency deal," he replied, avoiding my gaze. "It's going to pay off big, just wait." My stomach churned. "Do you even realize what you've done? That money was for Liam's future. And you didn't even ask me." Ryan's face darkened. "You're being selfish, Celia. I did this for us, for our family. Don't act like it's just your money." His words cut deep, but I wasn't going to let this go. I demanded he return the money immediately, but his response was dismissive. "It's gone," he said with a shrug. "The deal didn't work out. But I need you to trust me. I'll fix this." I stood there in shock, trying to process the betrayal. Not only had he stolen the money I had worked so hard to save, but he had also gambled it away on an illegal and risky investment. His tone and lack of remorse sent a wave of frustration through me. I turned to leave, needing space to gather my thoughts, but in my haste, I stepped on the edge of the rug at the top of the stairs. It slipped under my feet, and before I knew it, I was falling. The world spun as I tumbled down the wooden stairs, pain radiating through my body with every impact. When I finally landed at the bottom, I couldn't move. My arm was twisted awkwardly, my ribs felt like they were on fire, and my head throbbed. Gasping for air, I called out weakly, "Ryan, help me." But Ryan didn't rush to my side. He didn't even look concerned. Instead, he stood there, glaring down at me. "You're so dramatic, Celia. I don't have time for this." Tears streamed down my face, not just from the physical pain, but from the emotional agony of realizing how little he cared. As he turned and walked away, I struggled to reach for my phone. With trembling hands, I dialed my parents' number. "Mom, Dad, please help me," I whispered, my voice weak from the pain. When my parents arrived, their faces were etched with worry and anger. My father, Charles, carefully lifted me into the car, while my mother, Linda, held my hand, reassuring me with gentle words. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Linda said, her voice trembling. We're taking you to the hospital. You'll be okay. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed my injuries: a fractured arm, bruised ribs, and a mild concussion. I was admitted for observation, and my parents stayed by my side, ensuring I had everything I needed. Liam, thankfully, was safe at home with a family friend. As I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, a mix of emotions consumed me. The physical pain was bearable compared to the betrayal and abandonment I felt. Ryan's indifference was a wound deeper than any of my injuries. 2 days into my hospital stay, I was beginning to find some solace in the care of my parents and the kindness of the hospital staff. I was still physically weak, but I was trying to focus on my recovery for Liam's sake. Then, without any prior warning, Ryan walked into my hospital room. I felt a jolt of anxiety seeing him there. His expression wasn't one of concern or guilt, it was irritation. He stood at the foot of my bed, arms crossed, looking down at me as though I were an inconvenience. "You're still here," he said coldly. "How long are you planning to stay in this hospital? You're costing us a fortune." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart ached, but I tried to remain calm. "Ryan, I'm here because I'm injured, because I fell down the stairs after confronting you about the money you stole." He dismissed my words with a wave of his hand. "I didn't come here to argue about that again. I've got a plan to fix everything." I stared at him, unsure of what he was about to say. He continued, his tone casual, as if his next words wouldn't shake me to my core. "I need you to sell your jewelry," he said bluntly. "You've got some expensive pieces. If you sell them, we can easily get $200,000. I'll invest it in another cryptocurrency deal. This time it's a sure thing." My jaw dropped. "You want me to sell my jewelry, what little I have left, to cover for your mistakes? After you stole $150,000 of my savings? Ryan, do you even hear yourself?" His face hardened. "Don't act like this is just your money, Celia. We're a family. It's all of ours. I'm trying to fix what happened, and you're just being selfish." I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "Selfish? That money was for Liam's future. My jewelry is mine. You've done enough damage, Ryan." The answer is no. Ryan's face twisted with fury at my refusal. His usual dismissive tone gave way to raw anger, and his voice grew louder as he took a step closer to my hospital bed. "You dare say no to me? After everything I've done for this family," he shouted, his fists clenching at his sides. I kept my composure, meeting his angry glare with resolve. "Everything you've done? Ryan, all you've done is lie, steal, and destroy what I've worked so hard to build. I'm done enabling your selfishness." My words seemed to push him over the edge. His breathing grew heavier, and his eyes darted around the room. Spotting the blood pressure monitor on the bedside table, he grabbed it in a sudden fit of rage. "You think you can talk to me like that? You think you're better than me?" he screamed, lifting the monitor high above his head. Before I could react, he brought it down on me. Pain exploded in my head as the monitor struck me, and I collapsed onto the bed, my vision blurring. The sound of the impact echoed in the room, followed by the panicked cries of my mother, who had just entered with a nurse. "Ryan, stop!" Linda screamed, rushing to my side. The nurse hit the emergency call button, summoning security. Ryan froze, realizing the commotion he had caused. His face, pale with a mix of anger and fear, hardened as he backed away from the bed. "She provoked me," he muttered defensively, but it was too late. Within moments, security guards burst into the room, pulling Ryan away from me. My father, Charles, arrived just in time to see Ryan being restrained. He rushed to my side, his face filled with worry and rage. "You're a monster," Charles shouted at Ryan. "How could you do this to your own wife?" Ryan struggled against the guards, but was quickly subdued. The nurse, shaking with anger, called the police. "You're not leaving this hospital until the authorities arrive," she said firmly. As the police officers escorted Ryan out in handcuffs, he turned to me one last time, his face contorted with anger. "You'll regret this, Celia. Mark my words." Despite the pain coursing through my body, I mustered the strength to respond.
No, Ryan.
You'll regret everything you've done. I'll make sure of it. After Ryan's arrest, I was left to grapple with the physical and emotional aftermath of his violent outburst. The doctors assured me that my injuries, though painful, would heal with time. My parents, Linda and Charles, stood by my side, offering unwavering support. Liam, my 7-year-old son, was kept safely at home, shielded from the chaos. Lying in the hospital bed, I knew I couldn't let Ryan's actions go unpunished. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about ensuring Liam's future was safe from the destructive influence of his father. With my parents' encouragement, I reached out to Amanda Blake, a sharp and experienced family lawyer. From the moment we met, her confidence reassured me that I was making the right decision. "This isn't just about domestic violence," Amanda said during our first meeting. "This is about financial abuse, betrayal, and endangerment. We'll ensure he faces the consequences." Over the next few weeks, Amanda and I worked tirelessly to build a strong case. We gathered medical records, detailed reports of my injuries, including the recent assault with the blood pressure monitor and evidence of the fall caused by the argument. Bank statements, proof of the $150,000 Ryan had stolen from my savings account, along with transaction records showing his failed cryptocurrency investment. Witness testimonies, statements from the hospital nurse, my parents, and the security guards who witnessed Ryan's violent behavior. Past behavior. Documentation of Ryan's growing hostility, influenced by his mother Margaret and sister Diana. Simultaneously, I filed for divorce. Amanda made it clear that my case was strong enough to secure not only a complete separation from Ryan, but also full custody of Liam. "You've done everything to protect your son and provide for his future," Amanda said firmly. "The court will see that. Ryan's actions, both financial and physical, have made him unfit to be a father or a husband." The divorce filing also included a restraining order against Ryan, ensuring he could no longer approach me or Liam. The court date arrived, and I was both nervous and determined. My parents sat in the gallery, their presence a source of strength. Amanda began the case with a clear and compelling narrative of the events leading up to Ryan's arrest. She presented every piece of evidence methodically, leaving no room for doubt. The nurse and security guards testified, detailing Ryan's violent behavior in the hospital. Amanda highlighted how his actions put not only me but also Liam's future at risk. Ryan, on the other hand, tried to paint himself as a victim. His lawyer argued that he acted out of frustration and desperation. But Amanda swiftly dismantled their defense, exposing the lies and manipulations. "This is not just a single act of violence," Amanda stated during her closing argument. "This is a pattern of abuse, emotional, financial, and physical, that has left Celia no choice but to seek justice. She deserves freedom from this toxic marriage, and her son deserves a safe and stable home." After hours of deliberation, the judge delivered the verdict. Ryan was found guilty of domestic violence, theft, and reckless endangerment. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, ordered to repay the $150,000 he had stolen, and required to cover my medical expenses. The court also granted me full custody of Liam and finalized the divorce. The restraining order against Ryan was upheld, ensuring he could not contact or approach us in the future. The day the court finalized my divorce from Ryan felt like a rebirth. The weight of years of betrayal, manipulation, and abuse had been lifted from my shoulders. I was free to rebuild my life on my own terms, free to focus on my son, Liam, and his future, and free to rediscover the strength within me. After leaving the courthouse, my parents, Linda and Charles, embraced me tightly. "You did it, sweetheart," my mother said, tears of pride in her eyes. "You stood up for yourself and Liam. We're so proud of you." I moved back into my parents' home temporarily while I worked on regaining my health and stability. My fractured arm and bruised ribs were slowly healing, and with each passing day, I felt stronger. Liam, blissfully unaware of the worst of what had happened, brought light and laughter into my life. The first thing I did after returning home was set up a new savings account, this time, one that only I could access. I began rebuilding the financial safety net for Liam's future, determined to protect it from anyone who might try to take it away again. My online business became both my sanctuary and my source of independence. I threw myself into my work, using the lessons I had learned to inspire and connect with others. I even started a blog to share my experiences, writing about financial planning, resilience, and overcoming abusive relationships. To my surprise, the blog quickly gained a following. Women from all walks of life reached out, sharing their stories and thanking me for giving them hope. What started as a small outlet for my emotions grew into a thriving community. Soon, my business expanded and my income exceeded anything I had ever imagined. With the money I earned, I was able to set up a secure college fund for Liam and pay off any remaining debts that Ryan had left behind. My parents stood by me every step of the way, reminding me that I wasn't alone. Liam, now thriving in school, became my biggest motivator to keep pushing forward. Our new home was smaller than the one I shared with Ryan, but it was filled with love, laughter, and peace. Every corner reflected the life I was building for us, a life free from fear, free from manipulation, and full of hope. One quiet evening, as I sat by the window watching Liam play, I allowed myself to reflect on everything I had been through. The pain, the betrayal, and the heartbreak were still part of my story, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they were reminders of my strength and resilience. "I'm proud of you," I whispered to myself, knowing that I had overcome obstacles I once thought insurmountable. Liam ran up to me, his face glowing with excitement. "Mom, come play with me," he said, and I smiled, joining him without hesitation. This was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for me, but for Liam too. Together, we had survived the storm, and now we were embracing the calm that followed. My story wasn't just about pain. It was about healing, rediscovery, and the power of a mother's love. As I closed my laptop after finishing another blog post, I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine to build. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful for the future. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this story. If you found it inspiring or relatable, please like this video to show your support. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so don't forget to leave a comment below. Your stories and feedback mean the world to me and help us build a stronger, more supportive community. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more empowering stories and life lessons. Make sure to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Together, we can share strength, hope, and positivity. Thank you for being part of this journey. See you in the next video.